Bubbles, dark basement, scuttles, fingernails. Hey everyone, so we are getting ready for March and the astrology of the month. I feel like it's going to be a busy month, and we usually only do a few transits. We don't really dig into all of them, but there are lots that I'm not even going to talk about with Nika here today. So if you are super into figuring out everything happening this month, I would suggest checking out the Astrology podcast. They do a rundown of all the months. It's not magical related, but they might give you some insight into some things that we are probably not going to get a chance to talk to you about. And how are you doing over there, Nika? We've been having the low time.
Yeah, I've been. It's second winter here in Ottawa, and for those of you that don't experience, the fluctuations of seasons like we do, we had a week or two where it was getting pretty nice out, and the snow was melting, and I was like, I don't need a coat anymore. This is great. And then it plunged back down to minus 30, and it snowed for like 3 days. And
it's going to do that all week just to raise our joy and energy levels.
Yeah. So it's second winter, and second winter is worse than the first because you get that, brief moment of hope, even though it's coming. You live here. I've lived here my whole life. Every year you're going to get, your false spring and your second winter. And some years you get shit on real bad and you get a second false spring and a third winter. But right now I'm doing pretty damn great. I went for a float today. I went to a place called Iso Spa, and it's a isolation deprivation tanks with salt water. And I went for a float for an hour, and it was lovely. So relaxing.
And I'm impressed you weren't terrified.
Me too, because I'm pretty claustrophobic. But I think it's because if you turn the lights off, it's just dark, right?
True.
And you can't really tell where the walls are and how close they are.
How close are they? How big are the pods?
They're pretty big. I mean, you can sit up in them.
Okay.
So, I mean, it's not like,
a space rocket little.
It kind of looks like a space rocket. It's really cool looking. But yeah, and it's bigger than you think it is. Like, you've definitely got I had my arms straight out starfished in there. So, I mean, you've got lots of room to spread out. And like I said, you can sit in them, so it's not super tight, but I mean, you turn the lights off and then it's like, okay, whatever. And then when it was over and I turned the light on, I realized the water moving across the light made these really trippy patterns on the roof, and I literally lied there for 5 minutes just splashing the water and watching the lights dance across the roof. It
sounds lovely.
It's funny because I went with Sam, and Sam was talking about how you could literally almost use this as a purification ritual because the amount of salt that is in this water, that's what makes it easier for you to float, right? You float easier in salt water than you do in non-salted water.
I wonder if it's anything like the amount in amniotic fluid. If it's if there's some subconscious relationship between floating in the primordial soup.
That's an interesting thought. Yeah. But yeah, she was talking about how it could be like this. You could almost make it like a purification ritual.
So I wanted to bring up something I forgot to bring up last time that Kyla sent me. Research by neuroscientist Mark Filipino suggests that our dominant neurotransmitters change with each of the 4 weeks of the lunar cycle. The first week of the new moon brings a surge of acetylcholine. The next brings serotonin, then dopamine, then norepinephrine. What's interesting is acetylcholine on the first week, which is the new moon, is associated with new ideas, making friends, and being open-minded, which is the most intuitive period.
Interesting.
Yeah. So our brains are actually just releasing these chemicals that go along with what's happening.
So what's the chemical that's released for the full moon?
It's dopamine, and it makes you relax and enjoy being around people, which is the full moon.
Okay, but then why do people get crazier on the full moon?
I think it has more to do with the water content. Because you're much more likely to bleed out during a full moon, and it's kind of like high tide. Okay. So I think it probably has, you would hope it would relax people, but I think it probably has to do with the fact that essentially it pulls so much more water in and maybe causes too much pressure on our brains. I've been reading a book called Holistic Medicine and the Extracellular Matrix by Matthew Wood. And he was talking about how the water in the cells and the outer border of the cells are actually the intelligent part of the cells. Like, we think it's the nucleus, but they did the study where they put a cancerous cell's nucleus in a healthy cell and it didn't create cancer. But they put a healthy nucleus in a cancer cell, and it kept creating more cancer cells. So the nucleus isn't actually the brain of the cell. It's the boundary. Yeah, I know. I was reading that going, my brain needs to rework everything I've been thinking my whole life because
wow.
Yeah. So and there's a lot of research coming out. I know I was talking to, Marianne in our interview there on Herbal Magic. She was telling me that there's a lot more research being looked into about how water carries information and stuff like that. So yeah, I think water is going to become much more something researched in the next number of years, just because it seems to be a whole new avenue. But we should get to the actual planets. We're starting out the front of the month with a big bang, and then things get a little dicier, but it's nice to start out in a warm hug of a transit. On March 2nd, we have Venus conjunct Jupiter at 12 degrees Aries. This is like the best, essentially, transit you can possibly have because you have your two happy planets. Jupiter's expansion and luck, and Venus is like your love and connection planet. If you want to know the astrology connection to tarot, Venus is the Empress card and Jupiter is your Wheel of Fortune. And they're hanging out in Aries, which is the Emperor card. I like to always tell people that one of my first astro mage teachers, which is Nina Griffin, she's got a good YouTube channel. If you want to look into astrology magic, just a warning, she's straight up astrology. So if you don't know anything about astrology, you are going to be lost. But once you get into it enough, she's got some amazing information. And she says that she does spells on this conjunction. And when she did it, she met her husband like within a week or 2 weeks afterwards. So it's really powerful conjunction if you are in the mood. I know we're not promoting love spells here, but we are.
As I wrinkle my nose and I'm like, stop telling them to do love spells.
Ew. But I wanted to give everyone what we call a magical election. So good times if you want to do love spells. We want to do it before the actual conjunction. March 1st at 8:51 p.m. So before you go to bed, the conjunction will be very close to the descendant, which is the line that connects to other people. So if you were to do a love spell at that time, it's much more likely you'd attract someone else. I'm warning everyone that Chiron, which is a planet, it's called the Wounded Healer, is on the same point. So it might create sort of a healer relationship.
That doesn't sound like a fun relationship.
Yeah, just a warning. If you already are a healer, I don't know. But if you want it to be more about the whole world and kind of pulling in love, then I would do it on the same day, so March 1st at 1:50 p.m., because then it'll be on your midheaven, which is more about your outer world experience. So if you want to just draw in more people and more beneficial situations, that's when I would consider doing that one. What are your thoughts?
So because I'm just so anti-love spell, I can't sit here and suggest a love spell. I can't do it. But there's different kinds of love, you know? I mean, you've got romantic love and platonic love, and are real things. So I've got a friendship spell here with some Jupiter and Venus correspondences. So for Jupiter, you could use cedar, pine, honeysuckle, aloe vera. For Venus, apple, catnip, daffodil, geranium, lilac, passion flower, pink roses, strawberry, and yarrow. And all of those things either correspond with those planets, but they also correspond with friendship.
They make a good tea too.
Yeah, a lot of them will. And then for crystals and gemstones, I've got emerald, sapphire, and turquoise. They all have associations with both Jupiter, Venus, and friendship. So they'd be really powerful there, but they're also a little more on the expensive side.
Like a good friendship.
Right. Good friendships
more
are
value.
Worth the money.
Yeah.
So maybe try lapis lazuli, rose quartz, or rhodochrosite. I don't know if I'm saying that last one.
I was going to say lapis lazuli. So
lazuli.
We should mention it now. We've been talking, me and Nika, about the effect of being a big reader. Is you often have to battle with how to pronounce things, and I always tell the story of how my favorite book growing up was called The Hand of Chose, and it wasn't until I was much older I found out it was called The Hand of Chaos. so I get it, but anyways. What was the last stone?
Rhodochrosite?
That one I don't
know. Best color association for this is blue because it connects with Jupiter, Venus, friendship. But a rose pink would also work really well to tie in Venus and friendship together. And I was going to suggest an amulet or a charm bag for this.
To carry around with you.
To carry around with you to kind of draw some friendship in. So you could take your bag or your fabric in a blue color and then, throw your stuff in, maybe draw a sigil to go with it and tie her up.
And you could definitely do that one at the time I said 150 on March 1st, because on the midheaven would be your outer world connections. So
cool.
Yeah, so that would work. Awesome. The other thing I was kind of thinking about, because Venus is the planet of money and Jupiter is the planet of luck, if you got your money bowls, you might want to throw something in there, a little extra to...
I love me some prosperity spells, except my hubby always gets fucking on it.
Wait, but, say louder?
My hubby always gets the win on it. I do prosperity work and somehow he makes more money and just keeps making more, which is wonderful because he shares and it's great. But, I want more money. I want more of my money.
Yeah.
But the last time I did it, because I used to do everything on a Thursday. I used to do all my money working on a Thursday, and that was always where he was getting it. And the last time I did it on a Friday, I was the one that got the win.
I wonder if that's because Jupiter ruling Thursday is a masculine planet and Venus ruling Friday is a feminine planet?
Maybe. Everybody will tell you everywhere that you have to be specific about what you want in your spells. And usually when it comes to my prosperity working, I'm very unspecific because I just want whatever the universe is going to give me.
Do you write on a piece of paper, surprise me?
No, I just ask for, abundance and prosperity and, abundance and prosperity with, I don't want to say the least amount of effort because I'm not afraid of effort, but I don't want it to be like a hindrance to my life to get there, right? Like you hear about it all the time where, people do money spells because they want more money and then they've got to do overtime.
Yeah.
And I'm I don't want to do overtime. Well, I don't want to work more than I have to.
And so my question is it just bringing different kinds of abundance and prosperity? Like maybe you're getting a personal wealth of internal prosperity.
Right. And that's kind of where I'm like being unspecific about it because it's not just about money. Like prosperity isn't just about money. Money is great, right? But I mean, like maybe I'm prosperous in my thrift shopping and I find some, really great stuff. Or maybe, I make some new friends and now I have an abundance of friends around me that I enjoy spending my time with.
I like that. It's a good neutral, let's see what happens type of mentality. The only thing to remember with this one, it's a super fertile aspect. So
no babies.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't want them, keep it in your pants. The other thing is both Jupiter and Venus are very relaxing. So this can be a bit of a gluttonous transit, and it can also be a bit of your body gets so relaxed that you can get pooling of water. So put your feet up at the end of the day and let gravity put everything back where it belongs, just for anybody who gets a little bogged down. And we get to move into the first full moon on March 7th. It is a full moon at 16 degrees Virgo. And it happens just minutes before Saturn enters Pisces. A lot of planets are switching signs this month. We aren't going to go majorly into Saturn into Pisces because we got a bunch of other ones to talk about, but something to consider that's occurring at that time. The reason I think it's really important that that's happening at the same time is you have the moon in a very detail-orientated sign. It's very focused sign. But you have the sun in a very expansive sign of Sagittarius at the opposite end of the ecliptic. So those two signs work together in a full moon. Every time you get a full moon, you get the opposite zodiac signs playing. So we've got this super focused Mercury-ruled Virgo sign and the super expansive Jupiter-ruled Pisces. And then you've got Saturn entering Pisces. So Pisces is big and expansive, but Saturn's super controlling and barrier creating. What you're going to have happening during this full moon is there's going to be a lot of expansion and contraction and things kind of moving back and forth a lot. I don't know if it's good or bad, but it's definitely something that you're going to feel like a lot of the energy is getting big and small and feeling the need to focus in on details and then feeling the need to kind of get step back and see the whole picture. Just for people wanting the tarot associations, the moon is the High Priestess card and it is heading through the Hermit card, Virgo. It's all ruled by the Mercury card, which is the Magician. Got those energies working together. And I know you were thinking something, what was something?
I got a spell for organizing your goals because you
smart
start talking about Virgo and I'm thinking like, You start talking about Virgos and I see like all of the to-do lists,
Accurate.
Trying to get everything organized. And, I figure we can all use a little bit of organization in our lives, especially as we're moving into the spring equinox coming shortly thereafter here. And I don't know about you guys, but spring cleaning is a big thing in my house. I like to declutter, and anyways, organizing those goals is where I'm going with this here. So for color associations, I'm going with orange and brown. Orange for organization and goals, and then brown for grounding and organization. For your plants, I'm going with beech tree, lavender, and High John the Conqueror root. For crystals, I've got citrine, garnet, fluorite for goals, bloodstone, leopard skin, or red jasper for organization. And those are kind of like associated with, all of those are for like goals specifically or organization. And then you could also pull in some Virgo correspondences, some plants associated with Virgo. So I've got dill, fennel, lavender again, peppermint, sandalwood, and then carnelian, garnet, and jade. And then for this, I was going to suggest a candle spell. Get a brown and an orange candle, and then put them on your candle holders on a fireproof tray. Surround with your herbs and your crystals. Anoint your candles with lavender oil, because that's probably going to be the easiest one you can find.
I was going to say, if brown candles are hard, a light blue will work for Mercury too.
Yeah, there you go.
I haven't seen... Do you have brown candles?
You can get them sometimes. I'm like some metaphysical shops specifically will sell brown chime candles. Like they've got every color you can think of usually. Maybe not in the exact shade you want, but
said the Libra. Some more of an ochre. I was looking for a tan. Like, the spell's like, I don't care.
So yeah, anoint your candles. Take a few minutes to meditate on what your goal is and what it's going to feel like when you reach it. That's the part that you really want to focus on, is the completion of your goal and how that feels. If you wish at this point, you say your personalized incantation. I'm not going to write that for you. I think that you should come up with it on your own. And then you're going to take out your pen and paper and start writing down the steps that you need to do to get to your goal. Take as much time as you need with that. When it's done, let your candles finish. So put your candles on top of your note. I fold it 3 times like towards you to kind of pull that energy in towards you, and then let your candles burn out completely. Once the candles are burned out, put your list somewhere you can see it, on your vanity mirror, your bathroom mirror, on your fridge maybe. However, I will suggest move it around every few days, because when you put things in a place like that, after a couple days, you just kind of stop noticing that it's there because it just fades into the background.
Unless you put it on the floor and a tack underneath it. That'll help you remember.
Then you'll see it. But yeah, move it around every couple days just to make sure that it's there and in the front of your mind, and then carry the crystals with you. Take that energy with you as you're completing the steps for your goal.
Really smart. Yeah, Virgo's so related to like your health regimes, your cleaning habits, your general like close personal space. I could see this being a good time for figuring out a new dietary regime. And I want to say dietary regime, not a diet, because this would be a good time of letting go of foods that aren't benefiting you and pulling in things that will, because Virgo really loves like that healthy aspect. And because it's a full moon going towards a new moon, it's easier to release things at this time. Just so everyone knows, it is really common to get insomnia during this full moon.
Great.
Says the girl who doesn't usually ever have it.
But I have lately.
All right, well, planet said it's happening. And I know we talked a bit about shadow work questions during the full on new moon, and I was thinking the question of what do I need in this world would be a really good one to help you figure out what you're doing your spell for, and paring down what you don't need anymore to kind of shine a light on what's really important to you.
And what is no longer serving me?
Yeah, exactly.
Would be another good question.
And then we hop right to the new moon because the end of the month is a little busier. New moon, March 21st, which is the day after the vernal equinox. Are we getting a Ostera episode?
We should be, yeah.
All right.
I haven't talked to Aiden about it yet, but
or otherwise Corey.
But yes, it's coming. It's coming. Right.
It's actually happening right at 0 degrees Aries, which is like considered Aries point. So the beginning of the cardinal signs, the 1st degree, is a hugely powerful point. And when things happen there, it tends to cause big changes for everyone.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be surprised if this new moon on the 21st ends up being something big for everyone. Like there's some big changes we see going on. So it's kind of neat to have the new moon right there because you're going to have the sun and the moon right next to each other.
New beginnings, man.
Yeah. And so we've got the Empress card and the Sun card in the sign of the Emperor. The Sun is exalted in Aries, so it actually loves being in Aries. So that gives it that extra oomph to kind of help you reach out towards your goals and spread your seed or whatever.
Plant your seeds.
Yeah.
Don't spread your seeds.
Okay, yeah, let's plant them. And then afterwards. Aries is Mars ruled, so that's the Tower card. But I feel like when we have the Sun so happy here, that it kind of isn't that same level of negative energy. It's more like something new growing up out of the ground after all the destruction. I think this will really help people to kind of build some bravery or some courage towards what they want to do with their lives. And for me, I think spells towards that would really have a good extra kick right now. If you've been like thinking about doing something right after that, we had that full moon where we're letting go of everything. And now it's like, okay, what do I actually want to do? Now is your time to put your spells in to start whatever that next step is.
That makes this make a whole lot of sense here.
Good.
I'm really happy with these ones here. I've got a whole process. You're going to start with organizing your goals for the full moon. And then with the new moon, I've got a take action spell. And this is where you're going to do the spell to kind of give you that push that you need to take the action to complete those goals that you set at the full moon. The correspondences I've got here for action, I've got cherry, juniper, broom, geranium, peppermint, and cinnamon. For confidence, because I think everybody could use a little bit of confidence when you're taking action towards your goals. Cedar, dragon's blood, pine, basil, rosemary, and nettle. For crystals, I have aventurine,
whatever,
however you want to say it. Bloodstone, carnelian, and hematite. And then Rose just said the tarot card, the Emperor, is associated with Aries, which works really well for this kind of spell here. And then for colors, I've got red and gold. All of those things that I just listed for the correspondences for action, confidence, the crystals, the tarot card, the colors, they're all associated with Aries. Using those things will pack a really significant punch on this new moon. I'm going to tell you to pull the Emperor card from your favorite tarot deck, place it on your altar or candle tray, and put a red candle on top of it in a candle holder. Make sure you don't, if you need to put a little dish on top of it so you don't get wax on your card, that's fine. Grab a necklace that you really, really love, preferably in gold, like an actual gold necklace, not just colored gold, though the color would work well too, because gold's associated with Aries. However, you could also use silver because silver is associated with the moon. So take that necklace, place it around the base of the candle and surround with herbal allies. Light your candle and channel the archetypal energy of the Emperor card into that necklace, and then allow the candle to burn completely. Or you could snuff it out and use it to charge your necklace at a later date.
Or boost your spell later.
Yeah. And then you need, wear the necklace when you need to take action or when you could use a confidence boost in accomplishing your goals.
Yeah. And I think it's really important to consider the Emperor card in the sense that it's an emperor that likes to conquer, not an emperor that likes to sit and
be idle.
Yes. There's an energy of going forth and conquering. That energy is playing in, just so you know what kind of energy you're channeling when you do your spells. It's to go forward. There's definitely the need to do that. On March 23rd, we have Mars entering Cancer. This is kind of a gift and a negative for us because we've been dealing with the Gemini transit, which involved the Mars retrograde, and it went on for a long time. Because Gemini is like the nerves and the thoughts, it was a super inflammatory period, and I know a lot of people struggled mentally with kind of an anger thing going on there. Now we're finally getting reprieve, and luckily now Mars is going a little bit faster. Challenge is it's going into Cancer. Cancer is not Mars's favorite place either. Cancer is kind of the symbol of the mother and the child. In the tarot deck, it's the Chariot card. There's a certain element with Cancer of needing to feel control. There's a certain element of the home. I think the most obvious correlation for these two has a mama bear energy. And the challenge with Cancer being so guarded and so internally aligned is that it can mean that all that sort of outer aggressive energy or that drive can turn inward. So that can be good if you want to take that energy and start clearing up internal issues that you haven't been willing to face or feeling brave enough to face, because Mars will give you courage. But if you have a lot of anger issues, it can point them inwards as well, because Cancer often represents the home. It can create a lot more anger in the home. So I do like to warn people, if you know someone who has a household that's not always that happy, maybe offering your friend to come stay with you for a week, give them a little break, might be a nice thing to consider. Definitely you want to consider your calming herbs in the home, either burning the smell or keeping them around. So you want your lavender again, which is the theme of the month, is lavender. Lemon balm and chamomile. Make sure you're popping lots of those teas as well, just to try to keep the Zen energy as much as possible. If you feel like you're internalizing anger, make sure you speak, because the other challenge with having Mars go into Cancer is that Cancer rules the stomach. So you can end up with a lot of stomach issues. So make sure you're speaking your truth as much as possible, but maybe not as aggressively as you feel inspired to. Try to take it down a notch, but be open. The nice thing about this is because you have that sort of Mars courage coming into the home, it's a good time to do protection spells and boost your protection spells. So you want to do your whole house. Mars is represented by iron, which I know it's common to use railroad spikes on your property corners. This would be a good time, if you don't do that, to throw those out there. Iron filings also will come in handy if you want to bring in the Mars energy. You can throw that in your black salt or whatever you use for your protection magic. I know we talked in our curses protections roundtable about eggshell powder, so I would consider throwing that in there. Because your pets are kind of like your kids for some people, if you want to do any protection spells for your pets, this would be a really good time. And Cancer also rules moms, so if you want to do a little protection for your mom, throw it in there. I'm sure she won't mind. The best time to do the protection spell will end up being March 25th at 7 a.m. Eastern time. Sorry, we should mention that we are in Ottawa, so we're on Eastern time, so everyone's going to have to adjust to their own time schedules. And I pulled a nice little spell from Erin Murphy Hiscock's book called Protection Spells. And it's a really small little one, but I thought if you did this spell at that time, if you don't really usually do protection spells, this is a good way to start. So she just suggests grounding yourself or centering yourself. You take a white candle and you light it and you just say, "Waxing moon, bring me protection from all that seek to harm me. Thank you for your many blessings." And so if you don't usually do protection spells, this is such a quick one that you can just throw up. It's during the waxing moon. I timed it out for you. So like I said, March 25th, 7 a.m., maybe do a little spell when you get up and set some protection for your house using that Mars and Cancer energy. Like I said, we have a lot of planets changing signs. So this month, it's going to feel different. That's the way it's going to go. And one of the biggest changes we have is Pluto entering Aquarius. And it's just dipping its toe in. Pluto's the outermost planet. And it goes back and forth over a few degrees every year. So it's slow as fuck. It's going to dip its toe into Aquarius for the first time in 250 years. But it's only going to stay there from March until June. And then it's going to dip back out. And then it's not going to go back until January 2024. Whatever happens between March and June, whatever comes up for you, because it'll be in different people's houses. So it's going to cause different challenges for different people. This is your warning shot. Whatever's going off, it's giving you a warning shot on what you need to start looking into in your life. Pluto, we often talk about it being Hades. It's commonly associated with transformation. Pluto requires, in order to transform you, a release or sacrifice of something.
I was just going to say, it requires a sacrifice.
Yeah. And it was interesting because I was digging back through older associations with Pluto. So way, way back in Mesopotamian times, Pluto was actually more commonly associated. There was a goddess, which I think you would love, because she's very similar to Hecate, except much more powerful back then. and her name was Ereshkigal. She was the goddess of hell. So where Inanna, which is the Mesopotamian Venus, decided to go down for Ereshkigal's husband's funeral, which was Mars. These two were sisters, and I don't know if they liked each other because essentially there were 7 gates to get into Hades.
And by the time she gets through them all, she's naked or something, right?
Butt naked, yeah.
Yeah, I remember this vaguely.
There's a whole message behind that besides the obvious weird sister dynamic. The fact that in order to enter hell or enter your inner depths, you have to release or give up something in order to get down in there. At some point, you're going to come back out and you're going to put on new layers of who you are and become a different person. But that's part of the journey, right? That trip to hell. We have Pluto playing a big part in this change because now it's going to enter Aquarius. And Aquarius is the partner to Capricorn. And a lot of people don't realize this because in modern astrology, we assign Uranus to Aquarius. But Aquarius is actually ruled by Saturn, just like Capricorn is. Capricorn is your traditional sign. It loves looking into the past, seeing what worked, carrying on those structures. Aquarius is the opposite. It likes to move forward, it likes to reinvent, and it likes to destroy old habits and practices and reinvent. It is the revolutionary astrological sign. So here we have a transformative planet entering this future-focused, transformative sign. I mean, I don't really know. We've already had the themes of letting go and starting something new. This is going to be a big theme in general for the next 20 years, but at least we're going to get kind of that idea of what's coming up. So I want everyone mid-June to take a minute and meditate on what you've experienced for the past previous months before that, starting from March, and see what lesson is there for you of what you need to let go of, because that is going to make this transit that much easier for you when it comes into full effect, when it's permanently stuck in Aquarius. I don't really have a ton of magic for this simply because it's such a long transit, but I do think self-awareness and self-reflection are going to come in really handy when you're heading into the big changes coming through. And what were you thinking?
I've got a transformation spell.
Logically.
Because, Pluto and transformation and all that. This will probably be best for those who already have a pretty good idea of where they need to transform and what changes they need to make to get there.
Is this the finish on your full moon, new moon?
Yes, it is, right? You organize your goals and then you take your action to get there, and then you come to culmination and transform. So I've got for Aquarius plants, I've got pine, violet, and frankincense. And then for crystals, I've got amethyst, onyx, and quartz. Finding plants that are associated with Pluto are really
been
difficult.
Around less than 100 years, yeah.
Yeah, it's difficult to find plants that are associated with Pluto, but amethyst, jet, obsidian, and tourmaline are apparently also associated with Pluto. And then for colors, I've got black and violet. And I'm suggesting a bath.
A bath?
A nice bath.
A Pluto bath?
Yeah. So you run your bath, add some frankincense essential oils. If you have violet or pine essential oil, you can add them well. Or if you have them dried, you can throw it into a muslin or a mesh bag. Place your crystals and purple and black candles around the tub, not in. I am not pro crystals in the bath.
Oh, sorry, I thought you said candles.
Yeah, I mean,
that wouldn't work either.
Yeah, I mean, if you got floating candles, sure.
That'd be cool.
It sounds dangerous
For your
still,
hair,
but
yeah.
I believe amethyst is a water safe crystal. I also believe quartz is.
But Google it,
please, and just be careful with sticking your crystals in water. Even if it's not immediately dangerous to you, it's just not good practice for your crystals in general to submerge them in water for extended periods of time. So while you're in your tub with your herbs and your oils and your crystals and candles around the tub, spend some time meditating on your transformation. What are you going to become? What do you need to release and let go of for this transformation to happen? What is it going to feel like and look like once that transformation is complete? When you feel that you've spent the time that you need to in there, pull the drain on the plug and stay in the tub while the water is draining, because as the water is draining, it's pulling away all of those things that you need to release and taking it away down the drain to go away. If you don't like baths or you don't have a bathtub, got you guys too. instead of dropping it all into your bath water, take your essential oils and even, your dried plants if you have them, and mix it with some salt and a quarter cup of carrier oil of your choice and make a nice salt scrub. I'd go about 10 to 30 drops of your essential oils, whatever you're doing, into your carrier oil, and then mix it in with your salt. And then you can add your dried herbs if you have them. And then using the shower to scrub away the things that you need to release and let go of and let it wash down the drain.
It's funny, you made me think of the other thing I was going to point out. Is really interesting. Ereshkigal and Pluto never had temples where you could worship them, possibly because people didn't want to bring symbolisms of death into their home or create places to worship them. But if you want to worship Pluto, they used to slap the ground. When you're outside, just slap a little ground, man.
Yeah.
Send it over. Just so everyone remembers, if you don't have a Facebook, get a Facebook so you can join us at the Great North Witches Collective, because we are doing a Facebook Live for our next recording, which is a breakdown of how the movie The Craft has impacted the witchcraft that we use now, and just kind of looking at pros and cons of that movie, and also just the underlying messages that I think a lot of us downloaded when we were watching it and that might play into your witchcraft now. So you can join us for that. It's on March 10th, and the invite is in our group, the Great North Witches Collective. What else have we got going on?
At some point real soon, we'll have our Austera episode coming up.
Yep. And if anyone is looking to be interviewed, we are always looking for different perspectives, takes, challenges, things that other people experienced working with witchcraft, and your own personal journeys. So you can check out our website, greatnorthwitches.com, and send us off an email, and we would love to talk to you.
Bubbles, dark basement, scuttles, fingernails.